Today we walk you through some tile making as I mod Small World with a race of ninjas. Not to be confused with ninja racing, which are extremely good times. Welcome to DIY Gaming, your source for tips and walkthroughs for making your own prototype and playtesting components. I'm your host, Brian Beach. Now, tiles and cardboard elements are some of my favorite kind of game components to have and play, but some of my least favorite to make. You'll definitely want to have these manufactured professionally, but we need something for the playtesting phase, some kind of prototype, and it doesn't have to look bad or even be that difficult to make these. So let's hit the chopping block and get to work. And by chopping block, I mean slicer. Of course, scissors are acceptable in the absence of a slicer, and you'll want them for irregular or smaller cuts. I also recommend an old crummy pair of scissors for cutting the super sticky double-sided sticky sticker sheets. I mentioned we're going to be modding Small World, and what that means is we've come up with our own race with its own rules and even our own artwork for a little Pub Meeple mini expansion to the game. We'll provide a link to the PDF down in the description below. You'll need to print out either this or whatever it is that you're making onto a cardstock that's about index card thick. You'll also want to pick up some double-sided stick sheets. This particular version is a mounting, double tack mounting film. This is a permanent bond kind of thing, so make sure you read on there and you don't get the temporary or the peel away kind. And then finally, you'll also need some chipboard. Whatever your subject matter, begin by cutting the cardstock of your printouts. Go ahead and trim them to their final size. It's important that the front and back side of your pieces are printed to match in size and mirror in shape. If you're following along with our Small World mod, go ahead and cut out the race banner as well. Take your double-sided sticky sheets and lay out all the fronts and backs of your pieces to determine the best way to conserve your sticky paper real estate. As this is the most expensive part of your project, you will want to conserve as much of this as possible. Using the old crummy scissors, cut down the double-sided sticky paper to the right size to avoid wasting the extra. Remove the backing from one side and carefully stick on all the front and back graphics. Now cut these apart and trim them down as close to the cardstock graphics as possible without cutting into your cardstock. The sticky paper tears easier than it cuts if you angle the scissors just right. It may take some practice, but be careful not to cut into your cardstock itself. Next, separate the front and back pieces and remove the pile of backs for later use. Now bring in your chipboard and begin peeling the backings off the front side graphics, affixing them to the chipboard surface. Cut and trim the chipboard to the edge of your cardstock. It should be easy to cut the chipboard flush with the cardstock, but it's still possible to slip into your graphics, so be careful. Finally, bring back those back sides and peel away their backside backings. Double check your placement and carefully approach your chipboard as you come in for a landing. With the precision of a samurai, you will find a perfect fit. But for the rest of us, a little trimming might be necessary. The benefit to this method is that it guarantees the front and back side of our tiles match up graphically. But this does become somewhat tedious when we're making a large number of game components. Now, for that linen feel to your tiles, go pick up some textured scrapbooking paper, or like what I use for these homemade Carcassonne tiles, this is an acrylic paint paper that had a bit of texture to it. Now, my ink didn't take as well to this paper as it did to our Cardstock Ninjas, which is why these look a bit more faded. But when you're digging around in the bag, you can't really feel the difference between these and the tiles that came with the original game. Whatever it is you decide to use, make sure you're happy with your final prints before you commit to this project. Thank you for joining me today for DIY Gaming. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and don't forget to download your free Race of Ninjas. Just another way Pub Meeple is making the world a better place. And that's a wrap.